Welcome to Crime Talk, Mark Solomon. Today's going to be a long video, folks. We got a great viewer question where we're going to be talking about Chad Daybell and how Lori Vallow's new competency issue is going to affect his case. We're going to be talking about the charges against him and her and what the state has to prove. Lastly, we're going to do an update on 2 days ago video where I'm going to correct what I said about the procedures for competency. But before we get to that, don't forget to click like and subscribe with a little bell next to it to be notified of future videos. If you want to see future videos, click that button. You'll be notified, and we'll go from there. So first off, let's talk a little bit about Chad Daybell. He was charged with conspiracy and murder. Let's take a look at that indictment. So we are looking at the indictment filed May 25th in the county court, and this is in Idaho, and you can see count number 1. He was charged with conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft. You can see from the first subheading, one of the things they have to prove are overt acts. Let's take a look at that statute really fast. Conspiracy in Idaho is where they have to prove some sort of criminal conspiracy. They have to prove that two people agreed to commit a crime and that they committed some sort of overt act. That's what the state has listed here in the indictment. And they've listed 7 specific things that they have to prove in trial. If they can do that, regardless of whether they can prove the actual murder, both Lori Vallow, if and when her case comes back from competency and she's restored, more about that later, then they can get that conviction on the conspiracy, also a felony. So that those 7 things that they have to prove. Now remember, they can bring in other things that are not listed in the indictment, but these are the things that they've alleged. These are the things that they're almost certainly going to prove. The next charge that they've listed is the first-degree murders, and they go through those and another conspiracy and another murder. Again, we're on count 4 and 5. And these are for JJ, Tylee, and Chad Daybell's wife, Tammy. Really specific. If they can't prove those things, they can't get a conviction. Now, they have to be able to prove that he did those things, right, as far as the murder. Let's take a look at the statute. This is really important when it comes to what they have to prove as far as what he did and what she did. Talking about the interplay between these two cases, okay? Notice right here, 18204, principles defined and then accessories defined. If you've ever heard the term accessory before the fact or accessory after the fact, that's what this is talking about. So here in Idaho, a principal, as in the person who can be charged with the crime itself, is anybody, whether they directly committed the act constituting the offense or if they aided and abetted in its commission. Think about that. That means that if I tell somebody how to commit a murder and then they go out and commit the murder, I can be charged with a murder too. Aiding and abetting, that's what they have to prove for the person who didn't actually commit the crime. So let's move on to how do these cases interact with each other? She's claiming that she's not competent. The state agrees that she's going to be found not competent. There's going to be restoration. Again, more on that in the later segment of this video. More importantly, how can her claiming competency affect his case and the murder or conspiracy charges against him? And the answer is, I don't think that makes too much difference. He could blame her for the murders. He'd still be liable for those murders if they can prove the conspiracy. Because remember, if he aided and abetted her before the case, then he can be held liable for the murder of the actual victim, even if he didn't participate in it. And the same goes for her. All they need to do is be able to convince a jury that, beyond a reasonable doubt, one of them committed the murders of either Tammy, JJ, or Tylee, and they've got the murder conviction and the conspiracy, right? Is that fair? I think it is. If you disagree, if you agree with me, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your opinion on that. Here's the question from the viewer. Interesting video. First off, thank you. Second, I thought Lori would be reevaluated in 90 days, and if not competent, then another 90 days. Again, we're going to get to that in just a minute or two. Please do a video on how this relates to Chad's case. And can he just now blame things on Lori while he's locked up? It might turn out to be a battle of the psychopaths. Who will blame who first? I think we've talked about that already. And the answer is, what's going to happen is they're both going to be asserting a case against each other. And I've never done a case where there are co-defendants where you didn't have to consider what could you blame on the other person. When it comes to a murder case, clearly the stakes are really high. However, when they're charged with conspiracy and the facts seem pretty clear that they did conspire, then the real problem comes in that if one of them is convicted, if they can prove that one of them committed the murder, both of them can be committed of murder, but just by the fact that they agreed to commit the crimes in the conspiracy charges. So maybe he blames her for coming up with the idea because she's a psycho, but then if she committed the murder, he conspired with her to commit the murder, he's still guilty. And the only way you can generally get out of a conspiracy charge, the only way you can get out of the ultimate crime after the conspiracy is to not only back out of the conspiracy, but also try to alert the police to stop the crime itself. And there's literally no evidence that that happened. So I don't think they're blaming each other is going to help either one of them. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. If you think it's great, if you think it's going to work, I'd love to hear your opinion. Let's get to the update on the video from 2 days ago and the procedures for competency. This is literally the statute that guides the court and binds the court on what to do in cases when competency is raised. And here you see 18-212, determination of fitness of the defendant to proceed, where if, under Section 2, the fitness to proceed is found as not competent, the court gives the provider 90 days. She gets taken off to the Department of Corrections for 90 days for restoration. If the report concludes that there is substantial probability the defendant will be fit to proceed, then the court may order continued commitment for the defendant for an additional 180 days. And that being the case, you get a total of 9 months. If, at the end of those 9 months, she's found not to be restorable, as in she cannot be restored to competency, then the court must start civil commitment proceedings. Now, the court has the ability to dismiss the case here in Section 5. I'm not going to go over that. What I will say is, in her case, I think we're going to see something in the next 9 months. Either she's going to be committed civilly or the case against her will proceed. So thank you for that viewer for making me do a little bit better research on that one. I appreciate that. But is that fair? I mean, the fact that she can just stay her case for 9 months and at the other end of it come back with either a civil commitment, she's going to be locked up in a mental institution for the rest of her life, or start the charges again while Chad's literally in the heat of the fire. Now, his case was set for an appearance yesterday, June 9th. I wasn't able to see what new date was set. I know they vacated that date. If you know that date, again, let me know in the comments below, and I'll cover that in a future video. So that is interesting issues. And if you have anything to contribute, any comments or questions or anything, please let me know in the comments below. And as always, you have a right to remain silent. If the police are asking you questions about anything, who, what, where, when, whatever, you have a right to, I don't want to talk to you. And if they persist, I want a lawyer. Thanks for watching. Hello, this is Mark Solomon.